What is going on, beautiful human beings? Welcome back to the Ryan Magic Show. Today we have Alex Waters on, who is an old new friend. We haven't chatted in a while, but we connected and dropped in relatively deeply in a challenging time in your life. But Alex is a psychedelic facilitator. He's a master coach. He's someone that's built up a lot of success in his life materially, but been deeply inquisitive to transcend the confines of his mind and learn about what does it mean to live his most fulfilling and rewarding life, and helps other people do the same. And so, man, I'm excited to drop in and see where this chat goes. But thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, thanks for that intro. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have you been playing music recently?
I have, yeah. Well, music's like music is an old new friend of mine, to quote your words. Yeah. I grew up playing the drums and the trombone. My trombone's just behind me as well. Cool. In orchestras, jazz bands. I used to perform in, front of lots of people and jazz clubs, that sort of thing. And then in the pursuit of money, I kind of let music fall by the wayside along with everything else that I, thought I had to sacrifice. And so I just got to a place within the last couple of years this year really, of having a really honest conversation with myself about, okay, well, what's one of the reasons I feel unfulfilled still? And it's like, I'm teaching other people how to live their most fulfilling, alive life and do the thing that really lights them up, and I'm not doing the thing that really lights me up, and that is music. So yeah, man, I've got my piano here, and this is sort of a music studio in the making being set up, and guitar's a pretty new instrument, but I'm learning it at the moment. And it's been a humbling process, because I used to be very good at a lot of different instruments, and now I'm okay, but I'm not so good at all of them. And I'm just in that relearning stage where I've got a lot of ideas and ways that I want to express, but I can't yet, I don't yet have the skills in all capacities to do that. So yeah.
Have you thought about just using plant medicine to just cut your learning journey down, or have you already tapped into that?
No, that's been on my mind. I'm actually pretty sure I'll start microdosing again real soon. And yeah, but I have been exploring that in my mind for sure.
Yeah, because it's definitely one of your genius zones. I remember 5 years ago when I traveled over from Melbourne to Perth just on a whim to hang out for a few days together, which is a pretty big deal to do with someone where you don't know them super well. And so much of what the wisdom that we were discussing from your end and your wisdom was around plant medicine, and just the sheer courage and level of commitment to that medicine that you'd put yourself into in lots of different types of plant medicine. And so I'd love for you just to share a little bit to kick us off about what plant medicine has done to you, and the place that you, the way that you see it fitting into the macro journey of someone's awakening.
Yeah. Thanks for asking, man. It's interesting to get your reflection on that, 5 years ago when we caught up, I was talking about that a lot then too, because it seems like I'm still talking about it a lot today. So it's a thing. It's a big part of my life. Yeah, and my relationship with plant medicine has just continued to deepen over the years. So, for those people who don't know me, I facilitate psilocybin mushrooms one-on-one in therapy and in group ceremonies and settings at various dosages. And yeah, where I see it fitting in terms of, expanding consciousness in individuals is, in my opinion, it's one of the most powerful tools to use to do that. And due to how powerful it is, also deserves a level of understanding, respect, and reverence before we, just decide to, I think, use it. Because we are ultimately taking a substance or a plant that is can drastically alter your mind and your perception. And I think that that is what we are really talking about when we say awakening. We're really talking about expanding our perception and our ability to perceive. And that's why any modality that helps with awakening is something that disrupts the status quo within the individual. It disrupts our current wiring, our current paradigms, our current beliefs and perceptions of the world. Because whilst our focus is on a particular limited view, it's difficult to be open to another view, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, plant medicine is just so powerful, mushrooms specifically, so powerful in doing that. That's literally what's happening scientifically, biologically in your brain. Is your neural circuitry of defaults is being shut down so that you can have an expanded capacity to perceive, and other neural connections can form more easily than, you know, when you are in a sober state. You know, your brain's more neuroplastic. Yeah.
It's okay if you don't, because I wouldn't expect you to, but do you know much more about the science behind how that happens? I'm just curious, because I don't.
Yeah, I do.
Love to hear.
So essentially, psilocybin, I mean, I'll just speak specifically to psilocybin mushrooms because that's what I serve, and others I know a little bit about, but not as much. So psilocybin mushrooms, the compound is an alkaloid called psilocybin. It's in, you know, various types of mushrooms that grow naturally all over the world. That's what I love about it. The biggest joke about it is that where they most commonly grow is in cow patties. So if you want the key to the universe within, you've got to pick it up from the cow shed.
And I love how simultaneously, like, methane gas from cows, like a lot of people say, is like killing the planet. It's like the cow farts are killing the planet, but the cow shit is awakening the planet. That's a bit of a contrast.
Exactly. Yeah. Just don't eat the shit. You know, I mean, probably wouldn't eat the shit, but yeah. So when you ingest that, your body converts the psilocybin into a compound called psilocin, and the psilocin then works through the serotonergic receptors in the brain, your serotonin system, and it binds to the 5-HT2A serotonin receptor in the brain. And essentially, those receptors are spread out across the brain. And so it's almost like this compound is activating, it's like putting something on top of your brain. It's like activating the different points. You know, when you wear a TENS machine on a muscle, and the TENS machine is something that like triggers the muscle in different points. It's kind of like that for your brain in a way. And it starts to switch off the default mode network, which also is spread out through the brain in different parts. And the default mode network is the part of your brain that you're using most commonly to operate who you are as a human. Like how you know, you don't have to consciously think hard to remember what your name is, Ryan, and neither do I. And, you know, if you've gone to your office enough times, you know the way there, and you're not thinking about it on your drive there. You're just literally driving. You don't have to think consciously, how do I drink this glass of water? You know, it's all built into the defaults. And so what else is built into the defaults is all of your beliefs about yourself and the world, is all of your behavioral patterns and conditioned tendencies. And we know scientifically that most of those are created between the age of 0 and 7, when your brain is highly neuroplastic and you're like a sponge. And the reason it's important to understand all of that is because a lot of our conditioning is where we have created limits on ourselves, on our ability to, you know, give and receive love. And a lot of those things come from fears. Fears when a need wasn't met. And so we either shut ourselves off from that need and we try to suppress our need for that, or we create a behavior that is ineffective in meeting that. AKA, my mom didn't hug me when I'm younger, so now I'm just a conditioned behavior is I just expect that people aren't going to love me, aren't going to give me affection. And so I push friendship away because it's too painful when I get rejected or feel abandoned, you know? Or the other compensatory strategy in that could be as simple as when I do let someone in, I then cling so tight and attach so tightly that it feels controlling for the other person, and I get anxious and scared that they're going to abandon me, and then they leave anyway because it just feels shitty for everyone involved. So consequently, really what I'm saying is every strategy that's created as a conditioned tendency, as a coping mechanism for a need not being met in a moment, attempts to meet the need some other way, but ultimately all they end up doing is pushing away the thing that we actually want, which is love, which is connection. So I hope that answered your question. But yeah, that's really the science behind a lot of it.
So the default, what was the specific?
Yes. So the default mode network is shutting down.
Mode network.
And then, and because imagine this, right? It's like you're then experiencing yourself without all of your defaults running you. And so you can almost have like a bird's eye view on yourself of who you truly are without your coping mechanisms, without your strategies, without your addictive patterns playing out. Stuff like that.
Man. Yeah, thanks for explaining that. It's really brilliant that you have that level of understanding of the science behind it. It's really cool. And as we know, it's like there's so much intelligence that can't be explained that goes into it simultaneously. And
for sure.
That it's just a miracle. Like some of the hardest plant medicine journeys I've had have been on mushrooms, and just the way in which the intelligence of that mushroom spirit, like, just, it's annoying that the way that this sounds is woo-woo, but it's just truth. The way that it coordinates a situation to support me to see my blind spots, my default modes, my default patterns. And like an example of something that happened to me was the mushroom spirit created a scenario during a ceremony where I felt what it felt like to be my dad and to feel like I failed my entire life, which is my biggest fear. Like, how can that be? Like, that is so intelligent. It's not just shutting down the default mode networks. It's like full crazy wisdom that's just hitting me with the exact thing that I need to take my next leap into the more conscious version of me that's more open to love, etc. So yeah, it's wild. Course. And so
because
I think when we go for it.
Oh, sorry, man. Thank you. Because in the part of you that has created a story that you're afraid of failing, behind that, before that fear was expressed in your body and in your brain, there was probably a moment or an event or something that happened, or a series of moments where a need wasn't met, or and that need could have been simple as, I just need to be loved for who I am. I need to be approved of by my dad, or whatever it was, right? And that you, whether he did or not is out of the story. It's like your perception was that he didn't. And in your humanity, you then created a story that if you didn't succeed, if you failed, then you weren't worthy of love or whatever. And so then there's a fear, and then comes all the behaviors that start to layer on top of that, which is, oh, I no longer prioritize openness and connection. I prioritize the three activities that I perceive are successful, which is, making money, looking good, and driving a nice car. And so as your default mode network starts to shut down, your model of reality is being questioned. It's being let go of. It's being dissolved. And so, you can just see all of that. And you're absolutely right that there is an intelligence far greater than what I believe science has explained or expressed yet, because science is really just the pursuit of an explanation or an understanding of something that is already here. And science isn't finite, right? It's literally the practice of just what we've already think we've figured out, and there's so much more that we're still figuring it out. Always.
It's like an attempt. It's like a best attempt. It's
best
like a word.
Attempt.
Like if I'm feeling like millions of different little cells in my body dance in a particular way, and someone's like, "You're sad," it's like that's not that accurate. It's like 3 letters to describe like a full experience. It's multifaceted with millions of different cells, and you're like, "Sad."
Exactly.
I'm going to capture the moment and help me feel safe because I've grouped it for convenience, but it's not actually delivering the truth.
Yes, so, right there. That's wisdom.
so if
that's a lot of wisdom.
If someone's like considering doing plant medicine, but they've seen some people that have done a lot of it, and they look at someone, actually, the question more specifically is, where do you think some people use plant medicine unhealthily?
Yeah. So
that do it in ceremony. That do it in ceremony, not people that are abusing it like drug abuse. But
got it. Yeah. So first of all, I just want to preface for people listening that natural plant medicine, aka mushrooms, aka ayahuasca, things like that come from the ground or plants, haven't been altered or tested or created in a lab. They actually are non-addictive. The way that they operate and work with your brain, they're not hitting parts of your brain that cause dopamine hits or that addictive. They don't have that addictive quality to it. And if you try to take mushrooms, 6 days in a row, its effectiveness wears off very, very quickly. By the 6th day, you could take the same dose every day. By the 6th day, you may not feel it, or it'd be very, very small. And so it's a hard thing to, get addicted to, even from that sense. But that doesn't mean that, there aren't people maybe using it in a way that's no longer effective. And I think what can happen, Ryan, is like, and I've been here before, we have these such huge, profound awakening experiences, especially early on when you start using plant medicine, right? It can be so profoundly awakening. And then the polar opposite contrast is coming back into your everyday life. And your life is so polar opposite contrast to the experience that you've just had. And the reason the experience with the medicine was profound in the first place is because it was in huge contrast to your everyday life. Otherwise, it wouldn't be that profound, right? If it wasn't different, it wouldn't be profound. So there's this like kind of jump up, and then this like realization of like, holy shit, my life is still, what the fuck, what the fuck is this? This is, so opposite. The people around me are who they are. You might have these huge realizations and realize just that your life is so unaligned. You're in a relationship you don't like. You're in a job you don't like. You've built your entire life on a series of false stories of fear that you've been running from, your entire life and trying not to have happen, right? It's those moments that are just like, what the fuck? So you can have that, and it's so powerful and profound. And then I think when you're living in your everyday life again, it can feel like I need to take another dose, and I need to keep taking more mushrooms. I need to go again because I need to feel that feeling again. It's helping me every single time. And that can be very, very true and true and powerful for a lot of people. I think where it's used unhealthily is when we get to a point of, we're not actually making real changes in our life. We're not actually doing the work, and we're expecting the answers still to come to us from this plant that we ingest. And, we're not making the difficult decisions that we need to make in our life to create the changes that we know are true for us. And we just keep going back to find the same answers again, and, have another experience of whatever it was that we experienced. So, I do think that is the case. And like, it's probably not that unhealthy in the big scheme of things. If you look at the impact, like, what does unhealthy mean? Is it doing damage to someone's body? Probably not. Is it having a negative impact on society? Probably not. So yeah, let the people do what they want, I think. And, I think the way that we find balance and harmony within is by, when the pendulum has been hanging over one side for so long, and it's like it finally gets released. It's going to swing to the other side. It's going to swing back. It's going to keep swinging for a while until it sort of reaches this middle ground. And, I trust that everyone's finding their path. And I myself have, for sure, look back and I'm like, okay, there was the time where I was like probably doing it a little too much, or didn't really need it at that time, but maybe I was doing it out of habit or thinking the answers were there.
Yeah, thanks for being vulnerable with that, man. And I think it's a pretty solid perspective that if worst case scenario, you overdo it more than what would be ideal for yourself, it's not actually that much of a big deal. It's just like people overdoing all sorts of things, but it's not going to be as unhealthy as overdoing heroin or overdoing abusing someone. It's like, it's actually that makes a lot of sense. So thanks for framing that in. So have you, like, if someone was thinking of jumping into doing mushrooms and they haven't done it before, psilocybin, and they're afraid, but they also kind of feeling drawn to it in some way. Before we move on to a different direction in the podcast, what would you tell someone that's in that position?
Yeah, this is a question I get so much, and it's such a good question. And I just recorded a podcast mini series that's about to be released very soon called Have a Good Trip. And it's all the information and knowledge and wisdom that I can give people to equip them to feel more empowered in journeying with mushrooms. Man, I still feel scared sometimes, like, not often, but if I know that I have a sense that there's stuff that I need to deal with, and that it's been a while since I've had a big journey with mushrooms and it's calling me, I can notice myself like feeling afraid of that. And I think that is normal, because the fear is a manifestation of the part of us that doesn't want to change. It's a manifestation of the part of us that's afraid of the unknown. And the mind's perception around this stuff is even more unknown than, let's say, skydiving, right? Because there's an element of skydiving that people feel afraid of, but they have videos watching other people's experiences on YouTube that, there's all these things that say, yes, this is exactly how it works. It's going to be exhilarating. It's going to be safe. And this is how you're going to feel. And you're still going to be shit scared. Whereas I think with taking a substance that, here we are saying this is going to alter your entire perception of reality, potentially. Like, you're like, the mind immediately goes to, who the fuck am I going to be on the other side of this? What am I going to feel? Am I going to go crazy? What is all of this? And the answer to that is, yes, you might feel like you're going crazy, but because you start to understand that reality is simply something we create, and it's not actually something that's real. And letting go of your attachment to what you perceive reality as is very scary. So I don't share any of this to scare people off, because also journeying with mushrooms doesn't have to be that intense. I usually have a tendency to talk about like the most profound, bigger journeys that I've experienced and I've helped other people with. But, if you're taking a low dose to start with, which is what I would recommend for anyone feeling scared or anyone new, what's most likely to happen is you start to get a little more awareness about maybe where you're not, maybe what you're suppressing in your life, where you're not allowing yourself to express. And the medicine will give you an experience of exactly what it is you need to help continue to open more. And for some people, you know, they're fearful, they've got anxiety, they go into a journey and they just laugh for 6 hours, you know, and it's like all this suppressed joy and laughter and play just wants to come out. And, you know, it's the most beautiful gift because they have this embodied experience of all this like joy that then allows them to move out of the experience. And like when they feel anxious another time in the future, it's like, oh, well, I can actually just laugh. You know, I know how to, do you know what I mean? There's like this embodied
that
experience.
neural pathway is formed as an option.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to kind of come back to the question more directly, which was if you're feeling scared, but if you're feeling cold, what do you do about it? Ensure that you're supported by someone you trust or a facilitator that you trust and you feel safe with. Setting an environment is super important. And I provide all of these resources in this podcast, which is like a series of 20-minute episodes. It's like 3 hours of information that you can access. So it's pretty hard to...
We'll link that too. We'll link that in the show notes. So
thank you, man. Yeah, it's pretty hard to share it all here. But in summary, do it somewhere where you feel good and you can feel uninterrupted. You know, that's the setting, the environment. Understand what your mindset and your emotional state is going into it. That's your heart set. That's your mindset and heart set. And you can do that through journaling. You know, just acknowledging where you're at and what you're feeling, and then have a clear intention. Know what it is that you're hoping to experience. What is your intention for doing this ceremony? Because that can act as a guiding force during your journey. And the last bit of advice I've got really clearly is it's okay to be afraid, and fear isn't necessarily your enemy. If you can feel the fear and accept it and let yourself fully feel it and go through it, then usually you'll no longer feel afraid. You know, it's like the only way out is through, you know, so yeah.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for sharing all that wisdom. And I feel like a prerequisite or a pre-frame to that question was if you're scared and you feel cold, whereas a lot of people don't yet feel cold. And I feel just that honoring of our own choice is powerful. Choosing to say no to it can be really, really powerful if all your friends are doing it. And you're like, I know that it's not for me right now. But if everyone in your life's like, you shouldn't do it, you shouldn't do it, you shouldn't do it. But you still feel the call, having the courage to say yes can be even more powerful as well. So
definitely.
I love that.
Yeah. And something that I do with my retreats and with clients one-on-one, with our retreats, we have an 8-week preparation coaching program. So like 8 weeks of online coaching with the group of people that you're going to be on the retreat with. And, you know, we're actually sort of actively bringing up and exploring the fears before you even journey so that you can likely clear so much before you go in. And then you're already more receptive. You feel more comfortable with the process. So you have a more deeper, richer experience, you know, through. And then we have integration coaching as well on the other side. But yeah, I think that's just really, really important.
And I definitely I respect that level of thoroughness that you've gone through with what you offer now. And I know it's come off the back end of probably I know that it'd be over 100 journeys that you've done yourself, in various different medicines, which is wild. So it's backed by so much experience and due diligence. When we were talking before about some people of like their whole consciousness is going to be altered going into this. It's not like I'm going to do some scary experience like skydiving where I know what's going to happen. If you've never done it before, you don't know what's going to happen. And I've heard certain thought leaders talk to this exact concept who are against plant medicine because they're like Gary Vee, for example, has been like, I'm not going to meditate because I'm scared. I like what's happening up here and I do not want to fuck with it or change it at all. Or Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's like really science-based. Obviously, he's an astrophysicist. And he's like, why, like, there's so much that had to happen to get everything to stay in balance. The last thing I want to do is throw a bunch of substances in my mind and fuck with the equilibrium and the balance. And I like to throw myself into situations to grow and evolve, but I also like playing with the healthy contrasts that are out there in the world and seeing the benefits and drawbacks to that. And I think that comes back down to that integration piece of like, recently I haven't been leaning into plant medicine, even though I've done it a lot, because I want to embrace an element of more integration and normalcy for a little period, but I know it'll call me again and I'll reintegrate it. So it's like finding that balance for me has been really important. But what's your opinion on people like that? Like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Gary Vee, like what is your opinion when you hear them say things like that of what's actually going on?
Yeah, I mean, I actually agree with, I think it's really healthy to do what you're doing right now, and taking that time and space for yourself. And I do that a lot. You know, people think as a psychedelic facilitator that I'm always taking mushrooms, always microdosing, and it's simply just not the case. Like I often go 3 to 6 months longer without a journey. I went 12 months recently without any journey, you know, because I just needed to integrate, needed to give myself space. There was no need for it. It wasn't a call there for it. So yeah, when I hear about this, my opinion is that human beings only change when we experience enough pain or for the pursuit of greater pleasure. And it's very, the thing is, Ryan, that most people are not in a privileged position like Gary Vee and Neil deGrasse Tyson, and so are actually yearning for change. And I think that to me, that sounds like a great level of control being expressed in their egoic desire and attempt to control themselves, the perception that they have of themselves, the perception that others have of them. And underneath, I would be super curious to explore what are the beliefs underneath all of that. Like, what do you believe would happen if you did change? And why would that change be bad? And what would that mean about you? And what are you afraid of underneath all of that? I don't actually believe it's ever a problem for anyone to say, I don't want to do plant medicine. I don't want to put that in my body. I don't want to alter my mind. Like, everyone knows what's best for them. The only question I've ever got is, great, is that holding you back in any way that you desire in terms of the context of how you want to experience your life? And for a lot of people, fear is holding them back. For a lot of people, they're not experiencing love and connection in the way that they truly desire in their life. For a lot of people, they are consumed by doubts. They are consumed by thoughts of, I'm not worthy enough, and things of that nature. So, yeah, that's my answer to that.
Thank you for sharing that. No, I couldn't agree more about the pain, the experience of being in a position that seems flowy and nice and everything's going all good and well. But then, you know, like Eckhart Tolle's and the different spiritual gurus will have people come to them in the times where they've lost their wife or they've just been diagnosed with cancer or everything's fallen apart and their business has failed. And that was my experience. I wouldn't be here talking about spirituality and waking up if I didn't go through a shit ton of pain in business, around business, success, proving myself, etc. And that's actually what I'd love to dive into next with you, bro.
Yeah,
because that's one of the things that I resonate with you on around your journey and your approach to life. And that is that you were a really driven, success-driven man who built up a lot of success in business. And now you live differently to that. So I'd love to hear about who were you before when you were attached to business success and validation from that. And then what have you learned up until this point that shifted the way that you approach life?
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, we have very similar stories in a way, and even timing, I think, our ages when we were like in the midst of our journeys and when we fucking like exploded our businesses, same sort of thing. So yeah, definitely resonate with you a lot around all of it. So for those who don't know me, at 27, I had multiple businesses turning over, a few $1 million a year. In the real estate industry, I also still own an outsourcing company in the Philippines where we provide virtual assistants to businesses all around the world. Sold my agencies in 2021. And yeah, I mean, if I look at that time in my life, I always used to get asked, like, how did you do it? How did you have become so successful so young? Like, weren't you afraid? How did you make so much money? And the truest answer that I'm aware of right now is like, I had to survive. Like my brain was telling me at that point in time that if I didn't do that, I wasn't worthy. I was a piece of shit. And, and so I did it. It was like at any moment where there was doubt or fear, it was overridden by this need to survive. And, almost in the purest sense of the word, it's like motivating myself unconsciously through suffering. And I also just want to add that doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy it. I actually really enjoyed it at the time. A lot of it I enjoyed. It's just that, after a few years of it, it was like playing the same record over and over again. Even your favorite song is gonna, you're going to get sick of it at some point. And I think that's what happened for me. Everything was really good until it wasn't. And it took me actually going through a period where I just opened my first real estate business. I just opened my outsourcing agency. I broke up with my girlfriend who I cheated on a lot. She found out, 6 months later, and like I had to face the reality of that she called me a monster, and I felt like a monster inside. And at the same time, I went from earning a shit ton of money as a sales consultant in real estate, like $500,000 a year cash in my bank type thing, to making a lot of money in revenue as a business owner and having very little cash and profit straight away. And so I went through this period of like not having money in the same way that I had before. Actually, 7-8 months into opening my first business, I was living off $25 a week for food because I would go and like batch cook up fried rice with chicken, the big bulk chicken packs at Woolies and big bags of rice just to get by. And I also discovered intermittent fasting then because I could save money not eating. And yeah, man, it was a difficult time, but that was the moment where I was like, why am I doing all of this? What's the point if I'm not happy? Like I don't have a girlfriend anymore. I don't really have any friends besides like one person. I don't really talk to anyone in my family. It was clear to me that even though people were applauding me on the outside, I just wasn't happy. I didn't feel super alive. And so that's when I started asking questions like, well, if this isn't it, what is it? What's the point of living if I'm not, living how I want to live, and how do I even want to live? And I wasn't asking that question in a sense of suicidally. It was just like, what's the point of this? And so fast forward to today, after going through so much coaching, plant medicine, all of that stuff, I think I can look at it now and see that in the past, I perceived business as a necessity to another necessity, which was money. And I needed to consistently focus on having money because it determined my worth, determined how I felt safe, and determined that I would have choice and freedom in my life and more opportunity. And so the focus was always on the transactional side of money and life. Or if I invest X dollars here, I'll get X return. If I, put this time in here, I'll get X return. And that will mean that I'll then be free. I'll then be happier. Now, I am privileged enough that I have reached a point where, I generally can get by without working. My other business is very successful, and I have a general manager running that company. And my experience of life now is, what does my soul desire? How does my soul most desire to express itself in this moment and you know, at the moment? And a part of that for me is sharing value with others in the form of the podcast that I've just spoken about, in the form of the retreats that I run, in the form of, you know, music. Soon I'll be sharing music more publicly, recording, that sort of stuff. And I just recognize that money is a consequence of attention. Money is really the flow of attention and energy from others. And so if I give people value and they like that value, then there will be money flowing my way. And I create opportunities for myself to be open to that money. People pay to come to my retreats. You know, like I coach people, like all of these sorts of things. So I think, Ryan, what I'm trying to say is I'm operating far more from a space of trust now. And I want to acknowledge that it's easier for me to operate from that space because I already have some money. I'm not the richest guy in the world by any means. And I wouldn't even consider myself super, super rich financially, but I have enough that like my base level needs are taken care of and I have access to time, etc. So I'm trusting that through my natural desire to want to share and help others, that money will keep flowing my way. And everything has to be an extension of being in alignment with my soul's expression. So I'll no longer invest in things where it actually doesn't align with my soul. And I can see that every time I've lost money in the past, the underlying fundamental agreement for me to get a return on that money has not been in alignment with my soul. And so, of course, it's fucked up, or it's failed, or the money hasn't lasted. Yeah, does that make sense?
It does make sense, man. And I feel like that pattern that you noticed exists. I don't think that exists for everyone. I feel like sometimes people make a shit ton of money doing things that aren't aligned for themselves. But I feel like when people reach the point of awakening, the universe strips back anything that they're attached to and withholds it in order to teach them to love themselves without it. So it's like you and I have this contract where, because I have the same pattern, the universe just blocks me, causes suffering, does whatever it can to shove back in my face. You ain't getting that thing you're attached to, because if I just give it to you, give you all the validation you're seeking in this moment, you're not going to learn to validate yourself. You're not going to learn to be fulfilled without it. And I feel like it's such a gift that was earned by getting to the point of that awakening, or where the life shift goes from got to be validated, got to meet all these externals, to I'm curious and I'm open to the unfolding of my life experience. I'm here for an enriching life, not to be rich in life. I feel like it just takes a lot of work to get to that point. And so when you say, now I follow things from my flow, now I follow things from my heart, and that it's got to be in soul alignment, and I've got this other business that's making a lot of money, that's like service driven to the world, and it's giving you enough to do everything you want to do with that free time, but you're choosing to do things and trusting that the money's going to come from it. Because not everyone has the same karma, but I have similar karma. I understand how courageous that is. I understand how much my survival brain is just like wants to die, is going to die, to not pursue the thing that's easy money, easy validation.
Totally, bro.
No, I can do it, make $2 million here, $3 million here, but I'm going to just do this other thing and just charge not even that much and serve people genuinely from my heart. And it's so terrifying.
Yeah.
So
totally
honoring the shit out of you, bro.
Thank you, bro. And to you as well, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, to you as well. Thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate that. And it's been a big journey for me with money. And I have less money now in cash and assets than I've had in a while. I lost a lot of money in crypto and made a few silly decisions after I sold my real estate businesses.
What do you think the purpose behind that was?
I learned from it all. And I think the questions that I kind of asked myself with it all is like, okay, well, I could go and do the logical thing, which would be to, launch a course on how to scale a business to $1 million in, fucking, you and I could probably partner on it, Ryan. Like, how to scale a business to $1 million in blah, blah, blah. And we know how to run ads. We know how to target people. We know how to speak in a way that, gets people engaged. We both know how to sell. And we both know that money is something that lots of people want to make more of. It's an easy thing to get someone to pay $20,000 if you can say they're going to make 5x their return. So, okay, but like, then what? Like, on the other side of making that money, then what? What then? Like, what am I going to do then? Because I don't even spend that much money these days. Like, but besides wanting to fly business class everywhere I go, I would say my actual egoic desires are so few and so little these days that it's like, well, what am I going to do with the money? Okay, maybe buy some more profit, like buy some property, buy a big piece of land somewhere. Great. Well, that'll be nice. What then? What then? You know what I mean? What the fuck else am I going to do with my life then? What? Go make some more money? Why? What then? What am I going to do with it? Give it all away? I don't know. Like, it just, to me, I think this, what I've experienced in myself is is reaching a point of feeling so full, like internally, having so few needs externally, and I feel more abundant than ever. And it's that old adage of like, you want what you can't have, and the moment you don't want it, it'll come to you. Exactly. And I really truly believe that a lot of people are stuck in survival around money, and that has them actually choosing to experience a life that is far more difficult per se, or not in complete alignment with the one that they truly want, just because they think that when they have the money, they're going to be safer, better off, or freer, or whatever. But the truth is that, it's like every rubber band that gets pulled back eventually springs forward. And I think, every action, there's a reaction. And I think in the state of physics and quantum physics and energy, the reaction to overworking, burning yourself out, doing something you don't really want, the reaction to that is the polar opposite extreme, which both you and I have experienced, which is fuck this, fuck this stuff. I don't need it all. Like, and then it's like a total opposite existence. And you kind of like, the middle ground is much more harmonious and peaceful. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that too.
It makes 100% perfect sense to me, because we've had similar experiences. And it's essentially like, the word for me is intolerable. Like, it becomes intolerable to make decisions where I sacrifice my experience in order for some kind of external attachment. Like, I love that. It's just, I can't do it. I just cannot do it. So for me, I buy myself time and space with decisions on things that I don't mean that much to me. Like, I'm living in this my partner's apartment, and it's small. I don't care that much, really. There's some niceties, but it buys me, my cost base is probably like 35 grand a year in Melbourne, which is crazy, because I just eat the best quality food. That's my highest value, like lots of health. And then I don't need too much more than that. I have a car, but I don't need a super luxe car. So I don't spend that much on like petrol. I don't spend that much on, but I make more. I probably save more money than I made when I was making like $5 million a year or whatever.
Now. Same. It's crazy. It's crazy, because because I think you've got to ask yourself, and for anyone listening, is like if you're working or operating from in the pursuit of more money, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, money's great; it can open up so many options, and there's so many people, Ryan, that both you and I know that have a lot of money, do a lot of good with it, and and they're happy working in real estate business or whatever it is to get there, and that's totally cool. That's in alignment with what their desires are in that moment. But if you're choosing to chase money or pursue something like that, you've got to ask yourself, what is the part of you that believes you need more? And how is that attempting to manifest in your life? And what need is it actually trying to meet? Is it actually that you need a bigger house? Is it actually that you need to be able to fund your parents' retirement? Or is there something deeper underneath it, which is a part of you saying, if you don't do this, then you're unworthy? And in the meantime, whilst you attempt to reach this end goal and this end point, you are carrying forward a vibration of not enoughness that is permeating every area of your life. In your consciousness is expressing in that way. It's impacting your ability to experience the true feelings that you actually want to have, the true experience of life right now. And, I think the experience of life that I desire first and how I want to feel and who I want to be around, the kind of relationships that I want to have, the things that actually matter and are meaningful to me, then everything else becomes easier from that place. I
actually think that's the only way to obtain like true freedom, which is the pursuit that a lot of the people who are wanting the money perceive as the reason as to why they're chasing it, is for freedom. But what I found is when I walked into a room as some hotshot young entrepreneur making heaps of money, and I used to use conversations as little worthiness measuring stick games of like, how much do you make? How old are you? Am I younger than you, making more money than you? Tick. Next conversation, next conversation. And then I'd come across someone that would have less money than me, that wasn't super insecure, pedestaling me, thinking I was so good because I had all this money, who actually felt content with what they had and where they were. And they had what I actually wanted, which at the time I labeled grounded confidence. And I was trying to get grounded confidence in my insecure vessel and mind at that point with all these masks, and I could never get it. It was the one thing that I couldn't develop, grounded confidence. And I was like, how is this guy that's older than me, he's got less money than me, how can he feel good about where he is? He's making no money, he's not doing his purpose at all. He's like, look at him. And then I'd just be like comparing and judging and just frustrated. I'm working so fucking hard and I feel so small. So I find that we know this, that anything that we're putting as an attachment is got complete ownership of us. And it's a complete block from our capacity to do and be whoever we want to do. It owns us. I couldn't just take a holiday if I wanted one. I couldn't. I had to do what I needed to do to meet my attachments. So I was living rich, but in prison in the world with all this choice, but not really much choice. And I feel that's the experience. But what I do want to kind of see if we can extract out here, like I'm going to put it to you, but it might be a team effort, is like, there are so many people out there that just struggle to make money, that really want to learn that from us. And maybe we can give them some wisdom on here, but it's not as easy because for you and I, we have a barometer and like we have a thermostat, is the right thing, of we will always get enough somehow. We've just got that. I just know that. It's like, I've never been in a position where I really couldn't have anything that I wanted. And I just don't want as much now, so I don't need as much money. And I know you're the same, I know. So it's like, what advice would you give to someone that doesn't have that same capacity to just have the money they need, and therefore they find themselves stuck in a job? It's a different karmic journey, but maybe our karmic journey can give some wisdom. If they're stuck and they just want to make more money, but they also care about alignment, but they just can't get clients in their coaching business, or what do you think they need to do, bro?
Yeah.
To fix the finances?
It's a really good question. And I do think that there is an element of what's the word I'm looking for? Is it conscious competence? Conscious competence in, understanding money. And I think probably a lot of people who are trying to make more and struggling don't have conscious competence. They either don't have conscious competence in money, or they also are lacking the balls to the wall, fuck it all, like I'm just going to take every single risk I possibly can kind of mentality, which usually you end up figuring it out and making money at some point by doing that, right? Because it just takes a bit of risk.
So is it fair to say that those two categories, one's making money as an entrepreneur, one's keeping money? The making money is like marketing, sales, putting yourself out there. The keeping money is like spend less than you make, invest smart, etc.
Yeah, I wouldn't bucket it quite like that. Like, conscious competence to me includes understanding what money is and how it flows and where it's created and what that entire system is, because a lot of people, think that it's all to do with time, energy, effort, all those sorts of things, but it's not. It's about attention. Money is the flow of attention, which is we're seeing that in the most purest sense these days with influencers who can gain. Jake Paul is an example. He's monetized his attention. He's getting so much attention, and he's created doors now that open doors, and now the money's flowing in because the attention's there. And in the smallest sense, it's like your attention. You are paid for your attention when you work a 9-to-5 job. That's what you're paid. That's what you're paid for. You think it's time, but it's actually attention. And so I would just advise to anyone really struggling with it, what I've noticed with a lot of my clients who I work with, I'll give them all the tools, the tips, the strategies. I'll tell them which books to read. I'll tell them all of that stuff. It helps to a degree, but until they reach the point where they have embodied a level of grounded confidence, aka unconditional love for themselves, it's just always a challenge. It's always a real challenge for
that karmic journey, right? Because it's different to ours.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's where I would start. It's like, if you're not attracting money, or you find it hard to attract money, there's something within you that's making it mean something about yourself, and everything's a reflection of who you are and your state of consciousness and your beliefs at that point in time. And, breath work, meditation, vipassana, psilocybin mushrooms, psychedelics can all help. And it helps to, like I said, read the books and understand how money works.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, bro. Thank you. It's different perspectives.
And what do you have to offer on that? I'm curious.
My observation is that people tend to pedestal the idea of having money, and that blocks it a lot. So people will be in a job. They will be thinking where they are is bad, and when they have money, it's going to be good. Like when they're in their business, it's going to be good. So where they are is bad. And so because they're seeing more drawbacks than benefits to where they are, they miss the gratitude of working in a team and having the dependency, like having people give them cash dependably. And then when they go to jump into a business initially, and they've got to do the things to create that attention within your model, and they realize that, it does take energy. It does take courage. I have to go through fear. It's difficult. But because they pedestaled it, they weren't prepared for the drawbacks of this future fantasy that they're holding on to. And so they're ill prepared. And then when they step into that and the inevitable challenges and drawbacks ensue, then it catches them off guard. And then they were entitled with their job, and then they're entitled in their business. And then that entitlement ends up breaking them. And then they go back to the job and realize, holy crap, what I had actually wasn't too bad. And then they usually have to go through that whole thing again. But this time they'll have more gratitude for their job. And then with that gratitude, they'll probably appreciate where they put their money more, and they won't buy as much validation based items, and they'll be smarter with it, and then they'll be more prepared when they go into their business. Because I think what that says about us as a positive thing is that we know the difficulty that comes with the business journey, because even if it's in flow and alignment, it's still, at least in my reality, it still has some challenge. It still has like work ethic and drawbacks, and that's why now I appreciate money so much more than I used to, because I used to be able to hold the ignorance and sacrifice everything because my survival was on the line, my self-love, my lovability was on the line if I didn't make it. Whereas now I know I'm more unconditionally worthy of love. So I know what I'm sacrificing if I work hard now, and I'm not prepared to do the same shit that I was in the past because I don't have that survival mechanism kicking in.
Yes.
Got to be worthy, got to be successful, got to make it. You're going to look stupid if you don't, blah, blah, blah. So
exactly.
I'm just going to beat myself to the ground for no reason now. I'm going to work and do enough. And when the money comes, I'm like, thank you. This is giving me the time to enjoy my life. And I feel like people don't respect it.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah, I like that perspective. There's so many different angles to it, really, and I think what we're both saying in summary is like it's simply a reflection of your inner state of consciousness and the way that you're interacting with the world, and and I just think underlying is like what are you giving and how are you trying to help others? And every single mechanism to make money in the world is a transaction of value, of giving and receiving. And real estate is that, someone providing a house for you to live in while you pay rent, or someone building a house for you to buy. The value is in the dwelling that you get to live in and the experiences that you're having in that home. And the same goes for someone in a service-based business. You don't need to sell yourself. If you help enough people and enough people see that you have what they want, they will buy it from you. Just like when you want ice cream at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, you drive to the supermarket and you buy it, or you go to Uber Eats. No one needs to convince you that you need it. But someone did put that ice cream flavor in front of you at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally, dude. And I think the other thing that we can leverage our stories to give some wisdom around as well is that we know that it's painful to have the success without the grounded confidence or the unconditional love. Like you said, you had it all and you're like, but why am I doing this? And for me, I had it all and I felt so fucking lonely. I felt so low in myself. And that's something that I can only know by being there, and by being there. But if other people's karmic journeys are to develop that unconditional love before the abundance, or even never with the abundance, it's still not going to make someone's life better. I honestly don't believe future me with more money is going to have any more capacity than my current self for fulfillment, which I see as the purpose of life. So we can say with confidence that your life's not going to be better with money. It's not going to be better. Your fulfillment capacity will be the same. And you have the chance to get that well before we probably did in our journey of finances. We were the late comers to the party. So don't pedestal us, please. Pedestal current us, if anything, slightly, and with unconditional love. And love yourself for who you are. And that's where your power is.
Exactly. Everything will unfold from that place. Everything will unfold from that place. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. So, dude, what's exciting you most at the moment from like a personal growth perspective? Like, I'm always ruminating with different ideas or learning from different people, and certain things excite me. In every single moment, there's something that's exciting me on my personal growth journey. What's that for you at the moment, bro?
Yeah. Besides the increasing number of conversations I'm having with people about psychedelics and the expansion of my work and what we're doing and the facilitator training I'm creating for next year. Outside of all of that, because that is for sure it, but I feel like we've already spoken about that. Is I'm really starting to dive deep into ADHD at the moment. This disorder that so many people are diagnosed with these days. And I posted a piece of social media content the other day where I was sharing, that I believe that there's a cure for ADHD without medication. And that ADHD is a set of symptoms caused by a dysregulated nervous system, trauma stored in the body, and an addiction to distraction, which may or may not be a cause of the other two. And essentially too many inputs, too many inputs, and the nervous system craving too many inputs. And I've been having a lot of interesting discussions with people. That post triggered a lot of people on TikTok who, sing and all of that. And man, just the possibilities that are opening up at the moment in that conversation are really exciting for me. I am very much realizing that the gap between helping some people and helping lots of people is data, statistics, and science. And so I've decided to I want to work with a couple of higher profile ADHD influencers or people with some kind of influence in the audience so that they can share this journey, get brain scans before and after working together for a period of time, get blood tests, get all of these sorts of things to test inflammation biomarkers in the body like XYZ, and see the impact of us working together in a coaching capacity, detoxification and health protocols, and psychedelics, psilocybin mushrooms. And that's feels really exciting for me to take on and pursue. And
dude, yeah. I just want to honor you for a second, man. That's super courageous. And fucking inspiring. I love that because the wisdom is a known truth. All the wisdom is true because it's your lived experience. But to be able to translate that wisdom, which I feel like there's a bunch of people in our community, if we talk about embodied coaches and stuff, and that have embodied wisdom and a knowing, but the capacity to bridge that, to have the strength of character and courage to put that to the masses and translate that embodied truth into a digestible way is few and far between. And so I'm so in your corner, man, cheering you on that. That's super inspiring.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much, bro. Yeah. Really appreciate it. It's also opening up a lot of conversations, generally because, there's this common trend with people diagnosed with ADHD where it's they can actually focus on things that they enjoy. And this is a common trait that's spoken about. They can hyper focus on what they actually enjoy. And a lot of the logical discussions that I hear on this is and obviously life is filled with things that we have to do that we don't enjoy. And to that, I say, yes, of course, there are some things, but I definitely feel that perhaps this epidemic that we are seeing with ADHD, perhaps it's an evolution of consciousness attempting to emerge, because the ability to hyper-focus on what you enjoy, to me, is an expression of less survival brain. And rather than it needing to be medicated so that we can continue to fit new consciousness into old consciousness boxes, aka school, sit down, be quiet, do the test, apply yourself to this thing. This just seems to me like there's a huge opportunity for us to learn from this new consciousness and give it space through the spaciousness of the humans that are expressing this way, and see what is created from that place. What do they enjoy? What do they want to hyper focus on? And how can that better serve humanity? How is it better serving humanity? And what is unfolding from that place? So yeah, man.
Have you been diagnosed with ADHD, or have you actually sharing the symptoms of it?
Oh man, I 100% would say that like 5 years ago, I was like if I'd gone to the doctor, I would have had symptoms. And sometimes even now, I think there are moments where it less ever than before, but moments when I speak, I try to say 10 things at once, and I've got to like really ground myself and sort of be like, you know, but I've never been diagnosed, so I'm not going to try and pretend like I have at all. But I just never needed support, I guess, with it. You know, but yeah, there are definitely things that I relate with a lot of the symptomology that's expressed of it. Yeah, and yeah, there's kind of like a big part of me as well that feels a little combative in this area, because not about me being asked about it, but after I posted the TikTok, there were mums on there saying like that their 2-year-old clearly had ADHD and have been medicated from a young age. And this is coming from the United States, it's coming from Western countries. And man, there's a part of me that like got really fired up reading those things, not at the mums, but at the system and the you know, like what are our expectations of a 2-year-old's attention and focus that have us diagnosing a disorder? You know, that's a 2-year-old's a baby. Like some 2-year-olds are, you know, only just starting to talk. You know what I mean? And what are the environment that we're birthing these kids into that are creating trauma, stimulus, addiction to distraction, dysregulation, all of those things? And I think it's kind of fired up a part of me that like I really want to start, you know, expanding in this area, because it seems like something that's so widespread, and yet the main solutions are medicate with speed.
Yeah. Well, dude, I struggle with iPhone usage, social media usage, and I have all the awareness in the world. I meditate twice a day, every day. I like have all these things in place, and still it grabs my attention and I fall into little scroll holes. And I just would have had no hope if I was like 12 years old, 4 years old with a phone. Like, there is no chance that I wouldn't have been hardcore addicted to this and having my brain turn into mush.
Yeah. 100%, bro. 100%. 100%. It's like, what are we requiring of our human self that has us, you know, experiencing these symptoms? You know, and there's a whole range of things there. So yeah, that's definitely something I'm very excited about. Thanks for asking about that.
Yeah, dude. Thank you for sharing. And I've gone through something somewhat similar. I, for the first time, have noticed symptoms in me that are definitely diagnosable. I've been diagnosed with relationship OCD, which is like the hardest thing I've navigated. Label aside, it's just like an intense safety strategy that comes up for me, trusting love and intimacy. And I've felt for the first time in my entire life the reprieve that I temporarily get from my judgmental, shameful mind of having some kind of like label that I can go, oh, whoa, no, don't try to just give me advice on this. Like, this is a really big soft spot, and I'm dealing with some serious trauma here, and I am involuntarily demolished by this safety strategy, so much so that it's like more than I can handle, and I will handle it in the long term, but fuck, this is difficult. And it's kind of given me some like different perspective on this as well.
Yeah, I like that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I would never think of myself as like being OCD, but I've got heaps of OCD symptoms, and like that's part of what makes me a superpower, like superpowers in different areas. But it's interesting how someone with a different belief system could look at a set of symptoms and just decide that because society's reflecting back to them that they've got a problem, that their entire reality and identity is you're a problem, and how tough that must be from a young age. So yeah, I feel that there's big service in what you're starting to step into, bro. And I love the approach. I feel like it's super inspiring and courageous.
Thank you, man. Yeah, and I want to make it really clear, because there'll be people with ADHD diagnosed with ADHD listening to this. I'm not coming for the label. I'm not attacking people who associate with the label. It's what my hope and desire for is that there are a lot of people who feel disempowered in general, and disempowered by the fact that their only solution that they're given is medication. And that a lot of people don't want to take. And so my hope is to provide real solutions that can be implemented globally to support, real natural solutions that can be implemented globally to support people in alleviating their symptoms and experiencing their life in a more free way. You know, that's really all that comes back to.
I'm not hearing any like critique of people labeling themselves from you at all. What I'm hearing is that, and it feels really supportive, is that you want people, based on the comments that you said around, if someone has the hyper focus when they're doing something that they love, maybe this thing isn't a whole problem. It's actually the solution that, instead of trying to solve them and get them to do a bunch of shit they don't want to do, they're actually teaching us to do what we want to do. And that I don't hear you saying no labels, like, because for me, I don't care about the label. It's just sometimes I feel like if people's labels are being questioned, their ticket to self-compassion is on the line. So it's like, if you take away my label and I don't have ADHD, then I don't deserve the medication. I don't deserve the support. I don't deserve some lenience on where I am in my life. I'm not a failure. I'm not a fuck up. I'm not all screwed up. I have ADHD. I've got OCD. I'm not a fuck up. Whereas if it's, you're perfect and let's work on these symptoms, I mean, that's a whole different reality.
Yeah.
But I think that's what happens when people have their labels challenged. They think that you're saying you should just be different, which, like, that's not where you're coming from. I know.
No. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Fuck yeah, brother. Well, I'm feeling pretty complete with our chat. I think it's been a sick chat and so multifaceted as well. So I'd love to finish off by giving you the chance to send people where you want to send them and wrapping up with one final question. So thanks for coming on, brother. And where would you like people to go off the back end of this if they want to experience more of your work and learn about your plant medicine facilitation, and where can they find you?
Yeah, so at the time of recording this, my website is being redone, but it's alexanderwaters.com for those who listen in 3 months' time. And the best place to get me and to find out about what I do and connect with me is Instagram at Alexander Waters. Yeah.
Awesome, brother. And if someone's like interested in potentially doing a plant medicine journey, like, what's the best route from here to them?
Yeah, Instagram, link in bio, or just hit me up in the DMs. Cool. Yeah, but link in bio, all my retreat information. I've got 2 retreats happening in the US next year in Colorado in April and August. And I run a few one-to-one clients all year round. So if that's an avenue you want to discuss, hit me up there as well on Instagram. And the wait list for psilocybin facilitator training is also link in bio on Instagram. So yeah, just hit that one place and you should find everything. And if there's something you want to ask me, please feel free to reach out to me. I love having new conversations with people. So I'm an open door.
Booyah. I bring someone to you. You don't know whether they're male or female, what age, gender, anything about them. But they've heard this podcast episode and they trust you and they want to give you $1 million in exchange for what you consider to be the most valuable piece of advice that you can give. What do you tell them in exchange for the $1 million?
You just cut out, so you can ask that question again. That'd be great.
I nailed it as well. Like I asked the question so well. I'll go take two. So
you can record that.
It was recorded. So I'll choose which take I want to go with.
Exactly.
So I bring someone to you who you can't see anything about them. You don't know whether they're male or female, what age they are, if they've got a business or not. But they've listened to this podcast and they've gone, this guy's got something. And I trust him so much so that I'm going to give him $1 million of my money in exchange for the most valuable piece of advice that he can give me. What do you tell them?
Oh, damn. Okay. First of all, I say thank you. Thank you so much for listening, for trusting me, and, for giving me $1 million. I appreciate it. The advice I have to give is that you will continue to manifest disharmony, conflict, and challenges that feel fruitless in your life whilst and until you learn to meet your own inner need for unconditional love. And everything in your life that feels out of resonance is a manifestation of your need to attempt to experience unconditional love. And the only way that you can experience unconditional love is by realizing that you are not separate from it, that it's already here, that it exists within you, that it's the fabric of the universe. This feeling that we believe is something that happens romantically and with our kids. Why do we feel it? What even is a feeling? It's an expression of an experience. And love as the most potent form of a powerful form of experience is an emotional response to experiencing our connectedness, to our sameness, to our oneness with each other, with the universe, with everything around us. And so if you want your life to be more fulfilling, if you want to experience simplicity, if you want to experience peace, if you want to have great relationships, if you want to have lots of money, you want to have all that stuff, let go of your need for it and connect with the truth within.
Namaste, brother. Thank you so much for jumping on today. That was beautiful, Alex Waters. Beautiful.
Thank you so
it's
much.
So nice to hear your journey. So nice to feel the wisdom and the resonance that we share on our paths. And listeners, thank you for jumping on and giving us your attention. Lots of love.
Thank you. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Boom, brother.